Good morning. How's everyone doing today? Hit me up online at MarkNCA and let me know. Today I wanted to talk about net neutrality. And the reason why we're talking about net neutrality today is because it's June 11th, and in the United States, this means that the previous ruling on net neutrality is no longer in effect, which means internet service providers can shape their networks how they please. Now, they've all promised not to abuse or to take advantage of this newfound freedom. And of course, the FCC with Ajit Pai have been pushing that this is going to be a benefit. This will force ISPs to invest and build up their networks to provide broadband to those who don't have it. And these are all nice things to hear. And I know there's a huge amount of challenges around the concept of regulation and the political climate, but the summary for consumers is that this is a way for ISPs to make sure that they're not just a dumb pipe. Right? That's their fear. They own this network. They want to monetize and maximize the value they're getting out of this network, and being able to prioritize traffic from partners or from services they own is a way forward. Now, I'm against that, but that's not what this video is about. I like net neutrality. I think it ensures a fair playing field for everybody. But again, not what we're diving into here today. What I want to dive into is the security and privacy ramifications, or at least the reminder of the position your ISP plays within your role. Now, the reason why an ISP could perhaps provide a fast lane, could provide services that don't count against your data cap, that could leverage your information to provide a better ad delivery experience for its advertising partners, as the CEOs of AT&T and Verizon have stated they want to do, is because they know everything about your internet surfing habits. There's a common assumption among average users, and why not? There's not like it's something that's pushed out there, that your home connection or even your cell connection is a relatively private connection. It's not. Your ISP has the health of the network to monitor, but they're also in the perfect place to monitor all of the activities that you're doing online. This is why we in the security and privacy community have pushed end-to-end encryption, and that's where encryption starts at the application that you're using and finishes at the other side of that communication. So if I'm having a direct message chat with you, the viewer, the individual viewer, that message is encrypted on my phone. It transits down the stack of the operating system encrypted, out across the network encrypted, up the stack of your phone encrypted, to where your application will decrypt it so that we can communicate securely. So people know that we are communicating, but they don't know the contents of that communication. Well, your internet service provider is in a position to see everything that's not encrypted and to see all the metadata around your encrypted communications, because you're going over their pipe to get to the internet. We saw this years ago with a common practice where anytime you mistyped a domain, your internet service provider would serve up ads. Because they own the DNS that your connection uses regularly. DNS is the domain name service, and that's essentially like a phone book that translates google.com into a matching IP address. So unless you've manually gone into your home router and overridden that to use a third-party DNS service that promises privacy or contributes to your privacy, your ISP knows every website you've requested from a domain level, and then they can see the traffic associated with that because you're going across their network again. And I think that's a privacy threat that people aren't necessarily aware of. I think that's a security threat with the lack of net neutrality now, that people haven't quite gained haven't quite comprehended, right? It's going to be a collateral, sort of a secondary impact of the lack of regulation around net neutrality, is the fact that you lose even more trust in the network that you're on. So if you're using a cloud-based security service, how do you know that that's not being throttled as far as performance? So hopefully that's because the security service is encrypted end-to-end, but even if it's encrypted end-to-end, your ISP is in a position now to slow down that traffic and slow that response, which creates a potential security issue for you, as you're expecting a certain response time, or at least your systems are, and they're no longer getting that. And again, this is going to position ISPs to be more aggressive on the privacy intrusion side, because they're in a position to see all that, and there's no longer any regulation in the US holding them back. In other jurisdictions, in other countries, there absolutely is, and there's movements underway in the states to reinstate or to ensure that net neutrality rules stay in place in those states. But I think it's an interesting aspect where a lot of people just assume your your ISPs on your side. They assume that that's a safe and trusted partnership, and you do need to trust them to a certain extent. However, you should be aware of their capabilities because they are sitting on the first segment of the network as you connect to it. They by default have your DNS. They by default see all of your activity, all of your traffic back and forth. You need to take steps, or you should look at taking steps to reduce that visibility and to lessen their impact and their ability to serve you ads, because they can inject ads into your traffic, as we've seen where you reach bandwidth caps. A lot of the time ISPs will send a banner into your web pages saying, hey, you're near your cap, you're about to be charged over. Just a nice feature, but the way they implement that feature is really scary. That means they're inserting their content into content you've asked for from somebody else. Now the safeties are off. They are free to do almost that wherever they choose, because net neutrality is no longer in place. That means you as a user need to readjust your relationship there. So think about using a trusted third-party VPN for all of your traffic. Connect right from your home router out to a VPN, and that means that now your ISP is only going to see encrypted traffic. At the very least, look at using a third-party DNS service that you trust. There are a couple out there that do have privacy and security first, as opposed to gathering more data around ad networks. So we're in an interesting time. It'll be this is not going to be sort of that instant snap of today. There's going to be a whole bunch of catastrophic things, but because there's no longer any push for that regulation, or there's no longer any regulation in place, that means ISPs can create those fast lanes, can create those preferred services. The immediate idea there is for them to increase their revenue, normally around ads, but there are some security and privacy impacts, and I think we need to monitor those closely. What do you think? Let me know. Hit me up online at marknca in the comments down below, or as always by email me at markn.ca. Only gets better with discussion. Again, this show is driven by your ideas. I'm getting lots of great feedback, lots of push around starting in cybersecurity again. I'm going to be looking at a series of that quite shortly to update. The couple weeks ago, we dove into that topic on a couple shows. But let me know what you're looking to hear about, to talk about. I hope you are set up for a fantastic Monday. We'll talk to you online, and we'll see you on the show tomorrow.